I'm Jane Meyer, and I'm a mentor. So our objective today is to give you some tips about how to think about your business, how to plan before your business reopens, and some things to do as your business is reopening. And we're going to do that with our 3 SCORE experts. Ken Van Dongen is going to talk about finances and how you should look at that. Ray Hansen is going to share some human resources ideas with you, and Stellario D'Orso is going to give you some great marketing tips. Presentations. Ken has 37 years of experience in the financial services industry. He's a pretty busy guy. In addition to serving as a SCORE mentor, he chairs the finance committee of a New Jersey nonprofit organization. He mentors students at Montclair State University and provides legal and financial management advocacy to domestic violence victims in Somerset County. So if the rest of us will turn off our videos and mute our microphones, Ken is going to start us off.
Good afternoon, everybody. I hope all of you and your families are well and safe, health being our #1 priority, because it's hard to function without it, but we'll get through this, and so will your business. But just like our bodies have many systems to keep the body functioning properly, so does your business, and I'm going to discuss the financial aspect in this section. More specifically, I'll speak to cash flow, ways to take advantage of federal assistance, and tax benefits. Let me start by saying that before you put yourself out there to take advantage of any federal program or a tax benefit, please consult with your professional, such as your CPA, tax pro, banker, or even your payroll company. They'll have much more information specific to your situation, and situations are unique. Many situations are different. So make those people your best friends right now. Cash is king. You've heard that expression many a time before, but now it really hits home. Cash flow is the lifeblood of any business, and things just don't work right without it. Now, you can show a profit in your business, but still be cash poor. Profitability is a good thing, don't get me wrong, and it's a very good start to having positive cash flow. But you can't, some say you can't have positive cash flow without being profitable. But let's start by saying there's differences between your income statement and your checking account. There's things on your income statement that may not reflect one-for-one as a cash inflow or disbursement. Simple example is the accounting for a sale. You record the sale, but the customer may not pay you right away. You have a receivable. The sale shows up on your income statement as revenue, but until you collect the money, you have no cash flow from that sale. And then there's an item called depreciation, a non-cash item on your income statement. You defer that expense over the life of the asset or investment, but you've laid out the money up front. There's a big negative outflow up front one time, but in your income statement and maybe even your tax return, you expense it over time. So what do we do now? Well, we need to project things. Get ahead of your expenses. Projections and plans need to be fluid, so get ahead of your outflows. When you plan for your expenses, both fixed and variable, plan them over the next 12 months. Look back, what did you pay? When did you pay it? Plan it out month by month for 12 months. And then you're going to pro forma it. What expenses will you pay? When will you pay them? And how much will you pay? This will give you an idea of how much money you'll need each and every month to remain cash flow solvent. You may have different channels, different sales distribution channels, different suppliers. You need to change what happened in the past for what will happen in the future and determine how much cash you'll need to be solvent each month. Same goes for your receipts, mainly sales. You may have different sources of income now than you did before. Another simple example is restaurants having much more pickup and takeout service than they've ever had. This may remain true in the future, as tables will not be available and people may not want to wait for a table. So they'll order and pick it up. These are the types of things you need to look at the revenue side. Again, look at the past and adjust it for your new knowledge and forecast what your cash flows will be. Now you'll have a good idea of the amount of cash inflow you'll need to cover your expenses over the next 12 months. This comes in handy not just for your business plan, but also should you request financing from the Small Business Association or any financial institution. Planning is one thing, execution is another. So make your plans realistic and achievable, but also plan on coming out of this in a good situation. So now that we have a plan, how do we manage it? Well, we need to start by collecting on our receivables. Various aspects of managing your cash flow come into play. Start by collecting what your customers can pay you now. You can't survive without any inflows coming in. Understandably, everyone is hurting right now, but money needs to circulate to keep things going. And the same holds true for your business. You can renegotiate different terms with your clients, but try to get as much as you can up front. Then tighten your credit requirements. If customers can't or don't pay you, they're really not good customers going forward. You may need to drop them and find others. Remember, it costs you money to generate a sale. And if you're doing business with customers that are unable to pay, you'll lose out in the end. Be selective when you do this. Don't harm relationships with key customers, but those fringe ones, they're fair game. Many of you have done this already, but you need to find new ways to generate sales. Don't be afraid to copy what your competitors do, if it fits within your business framework. There's going to be new regulations coming out of this, for sure, and getting on the bandwagon of those that are anticipating those changes is a good thing. You don't need to be unique, but you do need to be competitive. Get financing where you can. Interest rates are the lowest we've seen. And if you have good relationships with your banks and your creditors, it may be time to look for a loan. Money's cheap. Interest rates are really low, even if it's not flowing plentifully right now. So take advantage of the government, banks, even your credit cards where you can. And then pay only what's needed. Take advantage of extended due dates and negotiate new due dates. For instance, work with your landlord to defer rent to the back end of the lease. You can do the same thing if you're leasing equipment. Pay what you need to and maintain your key relationships with your key suppliers. But the government is helping. So let's look at federal assistance. We call this free money. Hopefully you've already applied for your PPP loan by now, because slow and steady does not win that race. It can turn into free money if you use it as required, mostly for payroll. You can get up to 2.5 times your monthly payroll, and we'll talk about how to make that loan forgivable a little later on. The idle is kind of idle, no pun intended, right now for non-agricultural businesses. But look at the application and get your application and documentation in order in case it does open up, because there is at the bottom of the idle grant $1,000 per employee up to $10,000 grant that you can obtain, but you need to apply for the idle loan and then apply for the grant on the same application. Business owners are now eligible for unemployment compensation. If you're an employee of the business enjoying a regular salary, this was really always open to you, but now New Jersey allows self-employed individuals, contractors, and gig workers to apply. And the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program, the government $600 a week program, also benefits those individuals as well. You can take advantage of this by going to the New Jersey Unemployment Insurance website, myunemployment.nj.gov, or just Google NJUI for more information and how to apply. Net operating losses is a tax on your tax return are now able to be carried back 5 years, and instant refunds will be issued. It used to be that losses could only be carried forward and netted against years that had taxable income, but now under the CARES Act, the IRS will allow you to carry them back. So do it. But again, talk to your professional or your CPA to see if this ruling will benefit you. And then there's loan relief from the Small Business Association. While this relief is not available for the Paycheck Protection Program or the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, you do not need to apply for this assistance. It will be automatically provided by the SBA, and the SBA will start making payments with the next due date on a loan and will make 6 monthly payments for loans not in deferment. If you have a loan that is in deferment, the SBA will begin making payments with the next payment after that deferment period has ended and will make 6 months of payments. This for loans made after March 27, 2020 and fully dispersed prior to September 27, 2020, the SBA will begin making payments with the first payment due date of the loan and then 6 thereafter. There's also tax benefits in the way of deferrals and credits. And these are all items that you should take into account when you do your pro forma cash flow that we talked about earlier. You can defer your 2019 income taxes and the payment of them until July 15th of this year. And the same goes for your first quarter 2020 estimated taxes. Actually, first and second quarter, the amounts that we're due in April and June. They're all deferred until July 15th of this year. For those of you that do not have a PPP loan, you can also defer the employer matching of the employer share of FICA to the end of the year. Normally you have to pay that quarterly. They're allowing the FICA matching to be deferred to the end of the year now. The Family's First Credit covers certain costs of COVID-19 related paid absences for leaves taken between April 1st and December 31st, 2020. If you or an employee have not or cannot work due to coronavirus related absence, you may pay yourself or the employee for the time missed and the government will reimburse you. This is taken as a credit against any quarterly payroll tax filings. Again, check with your accountant or your tax pro on this one. And finally, for anyone without a PPP loan, the employee retention credit allows businesses that needed to close or have lost 50% of the revenue to take credit for 50% of wages paid out against their quarterly payroll tax filings. Again, check with your accountant or your tax pro to apply for this. So like I said before, I hope you have your PPP loan already, but if you don't, you can still apply because as of yesterday, there was still money available. But how to make it forgivable? Well, funds must be used 75% on payroll and payroll-related items. The balance can be used for rent, utility, or interest payments. And the payroll expense amount at the end of the loan must be equal to or greater than the base period that you use to apply for the loan. But you need to keep records of this and prove that you've spent 75% of it on payroll and not on other things. So start immediately. As soon as the money is received, start tracking how you will spend it and how you have spent it. And you can do that in any one or a combination of 3 ways. Setting up a separate bank account, setting up a general ledger cash account, and or manual tracking through a spreadsheet. If you use a distinct bank account, it's clean. It avoids commingling with other funds. But it's also short-term in nature, so you want to watch your costs. You'll also have to supplement this bank account information, your bank statement information, with actual disbursement information, because the date and the payee may not be enough information to support that disbursement. May not be optimal if you're making a lot of automatic payments from your current bank account, because the loan is short-term in nature. The bank account may be short-term in nature. So you may not want to switch from your automatic payment to come from this account. You can also use your general ledger and set up another cash account or a sub account. You can fund expenses directly from this account, which may be able to be linked up to the distinct bank account as well, or you can use this to fund your regular operating account. The beauty about this is it provides a lot more detail on the transaction that you're making. And then there's a good old Excel spreadsheet, which is simple. You just start with your loan balance and wind it down as expenses are paid. It'll keep an unlimited amount of information on each disbursement. You control what information you're putting on there. And it's also easy to link up with your other expenses to show that you're spending 75% on payroll. It's also flexible because I'm sure new guidance will come out. Things are changing very radically, very quickly. So you can easily adjust your spreadsheet. And then finally, be flexible, because there will be other required documentation that you'll need. Verification of full-time equivalent employees on your payroll. They do not have to be the same employees. They do not have to be the same level of employees as far as salary level, but your total payroll costs must be the same or greater than it was during your base period. Keep any payroll tax filings that you sent into the IRS and any state filings that you've done as well. Cancel checks are still a great thing. Make sure you can PDF them from your bank if you need them. Payment receipts, transcripts of accounting documents, verifying payments covering either your mortgage interest or your rent, and your utility costs. And then again, be flexible, because any other documentation the administration determines that you need to get this loan to be forgivable, you'll need to have. Again, I think the best advice I can give you, make sure you're friends with your accountant or your tax pro or your payroll company, because they're going to help you through all of this. And with that, we'll give it back to Jane.
So our next speaker is Ray Hansen. And Ray, can you come on with your video?
Hi, Jane.
Here's Ray. Okay. We're doing it, guys. That's great. Hi, Ray. So Ray has 25 years of business and management experience in consumer products, financial services, telecommunications, and pharmaceuticals. And he's also a busy guy. In addition to doing SCORE mentoring, he's a part-time faculty member at Rutgers Business School, where he teaches courses in leadership, management, human resources, business strategy, and international business. So don't forget, if you have questions, put them in the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen, and we'll get to those at the end of the presentations. And I'm out, and Ray is in.
Thank you, Jane, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for joining us this afternoon in this webinar. So these are the 3 words I'd like you to remember in my part of the webinar: pivot, prepare, and care. These words will be close to your secret sauce for restarting your business successfully from an HR perspective. I'm going to explain why and how. Okay, so some of you have heard this quote from Benjamin Franklin. I believe that it was as true in the late 1700s when he said it, when he wrote it down, as it is true today. Now, as Jane mentioned earlier, no one knows exactly what the future will look like, how we're going to come out of this, when or how we'll come out of this current situation. However, you can prepare to plan for when your business starts to reopen. Because take a look at this FEMA statistics, okay? 40% of businesses fail to open after a disaster, and another 90% fail after 2 years. So you might think the odds are stacked against you. That's true, but there's no reason to despair. We've found that those businesses who prepare, who are proactive, who can adapt, tend to survive and even to thrive. Of course, a lot of things are beyond your control right now, but how you respond is totally within your control. So I like to ask my business students what these companies have in common. GE, IBM, FedEx, IHOP, Trader Joe's, Hyatt, Burger King, HP, all household names. And guess what? They all started during depressions or recessions. So despite what's going on right now, I really believe that there are still opportunities for entrepreneurs like yourselves. If you remember 9/11, there were a lot of businesses in Manhattan that failed, but some others, especially those that were able to adapt, were able to bounce back. So I'm sure you've seen, listened to, and heard lots of advice about what you should be doing, and you probably have been trying some of these things. So I've talked to a number of students, business owners, and some of my colleagues in business schools. I'd like to share with you what I've been learning. And these are the 3 tips I want to pass on to you today. The first is to pivot by re-examining your business model. The second is to prepare by making your employees' health and well-being a priority. And the third is to show that you care by rebuilding morale with your staff or team. I'll go over each of these in detail and give you some suggestions that I hope will be useful. Also, I've included in the last slide some links and references that you can refer to after the webinar is over. And by all means, reach out to your SCORE mentors because we're here to help. Okay, so first tip is to pivot. Now is a great time for you guys to step back and re-examine your business. You've got a little bit of breathing room. Here are 2 quotes from Warren Buffett that I like. First one is, risk comes from not knowing what you're doing. And the second is, the most important thing to do if you find yourself in a hole is to stop digging. So don't assume your customers are all going to come back and expect everything to be the same as before. Remember, it won't be business as usual for a while. You've heard it said that there will be a new normal. That's a fact. So begin by asking yourself, if you were starting over again, which is in a sense what you're doing, what will you do differently? If I were to guess, I suspect that many of you are already thinking about your business differently, and some of you have started to adapt. But step back even further and take a hard look at these 3 aspects of your business: what you're selling, to whom you're selling, and how you deliver. How can you adjust and adapt to each of these? Can you diversify your product or service? Can you expand your customer base? Can you change your distribution method? Let me give you some examples. The first one you're probably familiar with. Personal trainer I know offers Zoom classes, as everybody seems to be doing these days, but she's doing it for free for the first month, and after that starting to charge, a little bit of a fee. Some fitness studios have taken this a little bit further. First, they started offering Zoom classes for the clients, but now are offering Zoom classes for the customers' kids, who are all in quarantine, as you know. Zoom has been a great tool for a lot of businesses. As a matter of fact, even in the funeral business, there are now services like Gathering Us that offer memorial services through Zoom. So these are just examples of pivoting and adapting. Here's another example of what you could consider: partnering with other businesses. So you probably know of eating places that are offering home deliveries or curbside service. There's a restaurant in Connecticut that has partnered with grocery stores in the area and sells them prepared meals that the grocery stores then sell to the customers. Good example. Here's another example of partnering. Local florist approached a home decor business in her town. When a customer orders from the home decor store and receives their order, there's a surprise bouquet from the florist that comes with a delivery, plus a coupon, of course. She's doing this in addition to offering home deliveries and curbside pickup. So here's some examples of how small businesses are starting to pivot. Now, a great tool for re-examining your business model is to do a SWOT analysis. I don't know how familiar you are with this, but SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So you can actually do this on a sheet of paper. It doesn't take a long time, as long as you take a brutally honest look at your business. But better still, I suggest don't do this by yourself. Get your team involved. They'll appreciate getting involved, and maybe you'll get some great ideas. Maybe you could do this via a Zoom call. And if you need further advice on this, talk to a SCORE mentor. Regardless, for most of you, remember your top two priorities. As Ken has already mentioned, you got to conserve your cash because cash is king, as Ken has mentioned. And your other top priority, of course, is to maintain your current customers. Get their feedback. Reach out to them. If you have a lot of customers, maybe do an online survey. Find out what they're looking for in a service like yours. Here's an example from a gift shop owner. Okay, now that customers are not coming into her store, she can't ask them questions about what they're looking for, who is it for, what's the occasion, how much they want to spend. So in her website, she has uploaded a Google form, and she asked her potential customers to fill out that form. Then she gets the form and she works with a customer virtually to find the perfect gift. So some things to consider. Number one, figure out what your competitive advantage is. As you're thinking about your business, ask yourself, what's unique about your business? Is it your price? Is it the personal customer service? Is it your brand? Is it the convenience? So you got to really think through what is unique about your business, and the second is how can you then take advantage of what's unique about your business in order to maintain your current customers and perhaps attract new ones. Number three is to find ways to reward customer loyalty. So we've talked about your maintaining your current customers. Maybe it's offering your loyal customers or your best customers something exclusive like early access. Maybe it's a reward for recruiting new customers. Maybe some kind of a loyalty program or a bonus for frequency of purchase. Some owners are using Instagram to ask customers what they need help with. Number four is to look for where you can cut costs, and by the way, where you might need to reinvest. Okay, Ken has already said that cash is king, but if you can't afford it, you might want to hire someone to redesign your web page, because online seems to be the way to go for many small businesses. And I think Estelario will talk to you later. You gotta kind of redesign your web page so it becomes attractive and another potential source of revenue for you. Start thinking and growing your online presence. Okay, and finally, expand your digital reputation. Take advantage of social media platforms, but make sure you have a consistent voice across these platforms, one that reflects your personality and your business, so you can get customers excited about your offerings. Okay, tip number two is to prepare. Make your employees' health and well-being a priority. Your employees are worried. That's understandable. But you can't run your business without them. So make sure you show them that they are your priority as well. By first educating yourself about about all the different regulations, benefits, and requirements out there. Ken mentioned a whole bunch of them for getting funding. The first thing I want to say about these regulations and requirements and guidelines is that they're constantly evolving and changing. So make sure you check the latest CDC updates or check with a SCORE mentor for help, because I'm not a legal expert, nor am I an accountant. So some of the questions you may have. What should you do if an employee comes to work with COVID-19 symptoms? Okay, latest guidelines seem to suggest that you immediately separate them and send them home. And the most common symptoms, according to CDC, are a high fever, which I believe they generally define as 100.4 degrees, and a dry cough. So you got to check in with them. And guidelines again seem to suggest, although you need to check the latest updates, that they need to be home for at least 3 days with no fever and no other symptoms. And of course, you need to be constantly cleaning and disinfecting your workplace, as I'll mention later on. By the way, if you do have someone who has tested positive, you all, of course, send them home and make sure you let others in your business know. That seems to be a requirement for the CDC, that you have to let your other employees know that there's somebody who has tested positive. If employees have been exposed but are not showing symptoms, okay, should you allow them to work? Now, the guidelines seem to suggest yes, but have them self-monitor and practice social distancing and screen them regularly. Okay? How do I keep employees who interact with customers safe? You've heard all the guidelines, I'm sure by now. Social distancing, marking floors to guide spacing, having flexible plexiglass partitions, cleaning and disinfecting at least once a day, providing tissues and hand sanitizers. And finally, how do you mitigate risk of a lawsuit if an employee gets COVID while at work? Let me say this is unlikely, especially if you have a good relationship with your employees. It'll be very hard to prove anyway that they got COVID while at work, especially if you've been implementing preventive measures. But do implement those preventive measures ASAP. Send them home if they're sick and allow employees to work from home if feasible. So this is another way of saying have a plan in place and procedures for employees. Okay, so and be very clear to your employees what you expect from them, what you want them to tell you. For example, if they have any symptoms or if they have been exposed, provide them with face masks, install sneeze guards, etc. And make sure you do deep cleaning and disinfecting every day if feasible. And finally, make sure you implement workplace flexibility and leave practices. Okay, this is really important as more employees are working remotely. Reassure employees that it's okay to stay home if they don't feel well. And if you can, offer telework and flexible work hours, but make sure you set clear expectations if that happens to be the case with you. Make sure they understand how frequently they should be communicating with you, what their work schedules are, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, you got to protect your business. If your employees are doing telework, okay, make sure that their homes are safe for business. Smoke detectors, lighting, extension cords, whatever. Make sure your homeowners' policies their homeowner policies are up to date, and that insurance and check with your insurance provider on your coverage. And make sure you do a cybersecurity audit. So you have firewalls, anti-malware software, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, the third and perhaps the most important tip that I have for you is to rebuild morale. Whether you have 1 or 2 employees or several dozen employees, remember that you can't operate your business without them. You want to protect your most important assets, your employees. So rebuild morale. Your employees could use a boost right now. Research shows that what your employees want most from you during these times is trust, compassion, and hope. The best bosses today are more like coaches. Make your employees feel that you are working with them, not necessarily that they are just working for you. Of course, you don't have to be their BFF. The important thing is to engage your team. Don't disappear. Keep the lines of communication open. Be aware of their concerns, listen, and show that you care. Be optimistic. They're looking for signals from you. Of course, there's a balance between honesty and hope. You don't want to sugarcoat, but you also want to give them some hope. And if you have some really good people, you don't want them to start looking around for other jobs. There's nothing worse than letting someone go. And if you have to lay off or furlough, some of you may have already done this, I suspect, do it with compassion. You know, have a script. Don't just wing it. Don't make it about you and be supportive. For example, say you'll be glad to give them a letter of recommendation. Talk to a SCORE mentor if you want more advice on this. Make resilience your friend, okay? Start getting out of your comfort zone and thinking about, how your business can be different. I get inspired by successful failures. Walt Disney was fired from his local paper because he lacked imagination, he was told. Stephen King's book, Carrie, was rejected by over 30 publishers. Colonel Sanders was 62 when he pitched his chicken recipe to restaurants, and he got over 1,000 rejections. And finally, manage yourself and your mindset. Self-care is super important these days. Remember those announcements on the plane when in an emergency, they tell you to put on your oxygen mask first before helping others? As a psychologist, I talk to my students and manager clients who are under a lot of stress. And you yourselves know if you're under a lot of stress, some of your dark sides start showing up. You get upset, you take it out on others. You don't make the best decisions. It's a tough time to be a small business owner. You have a lot to worry about. You feel responsible not just for your business, but for your customers and your employees. So take care of yourselves. Eat healthy. Get a good night's sleep. Exercise. Stay positive. As Jane mentioned earlier. Two specific things here. One is to do some positive self-talk, okay? Instead of saying, this sucks, say, I'm looking forward to opening up again and trying new things. The other thing is to think about writing some kind of a gratitude journal, okay? One entrepreneur I know writes down every day 3 things that he was grateful for that day. And of course, talk to a SCORE mentor to get some advice. So on the last slide are links and references that you might find helpful as you want to keep yourself updated on what's going on. Thank you for listening, and pass it on back to you, Jane.
Okay, thank you. That was great, Ray. I like that a lot, and I still like the positiveness of it. Somebody was saying the other day, I heard that said that you can have a little bit of humor with this. This is a very serious topic, so you don't want to be flippant about it, but think about things positively and maybe with a little bit of humor. There was I heard about a Western store out in, I don't know where it was, Nevada or someplace, and they put the 6-foot markings on the floor, and then they were saying that the 6 feet is the length of a cow. And so it's just a little bit of humor that's relevant to their business and to their customers. It's still serious, but we could all use a little smile now and then. So here we go. Thank you, Ray. Stellario D'Orso is our third speaker. He's been a marketing and sales consultant for the last 24 years, and he also has extensive experience in product development. And over the last few years, he's also assisted over 15 European business get startups here in the US. He's also a busy guy with all of this and finds time to do SCORE mentoring. So Stellario, would you take it away?
Thank you, Jane. I am happy to have this opportunity to talk with you about marketing and perhaps help you demystify some misconceptions about this essential element of business. There is a perception in the business world, and particularly among small businesses operators, that marketing is a series of techniques, often difficult to master, very technical, and almost always expensive. In reality, marketing is all about storytelling. And those techniques are just about efficient methods of distributing those stories to the right audiences. These stories need to be credible and relevant. And now, more than ever, they need to be authentic. So marketing in the time of COVID will revolve around 4 concepts: communicate, participate, adapt, and ask, so that your clientele can continue thinking of you as a trusted resource for their needs while dealing with COVID-19. communicate. None of us really know what to expect about getting back to normal, and therefore clear communication is essential. As a consumer, I don't want to guess if and when a store will be open or whether or not I will be allowed inside. I will want to know that the business is taking the necessary precautions to protect me and its employees. Businesses will need to communicate at this level clearly and in an easy to find way. A business website and social media platforms are uniquely effective at keeping consumers informed, particularly when properly plugged into the many neighborhood and town pages that are now ubiquitous. This, for instance, is a good example of good use of a website. A local veterinary clinic clearly communicates the safety precautions being taken to safeguard the well-being of their clients and employees. And this is a pop-up window that comes up right on the home page as soon as you go to this company's website. Local Facebook groups. Almost every town in the US now has a Facebook page. This is an example of Chester, New Jersey, who happens to have almost 3,000 members. Now, keep in mind, Chester, New Jersey has 7,000 people living in. So the participation rate to these groups is extraordinarily high. This is an example of a local business in Chester who is using this tool quite effectively to communicate how they're adapting to this business, their hour of operation, the kind of services that they are providing, and very interestingly, how they are partnering with local charities to support them. This is a great example of the use of this tool. Businesses need to have a website today. There is no two ways about it. If you don't have one, you must start building one right away. A business without a website is like a store without signage. It can't be found. A basic website can be built even by non-experts very quickly and inexpensively using web development platforms. These platforms provide easy implementations from a wide range of very attractive templates and many integrated add-on services like e-commerce, email marketing, search engine optimization, search engine marketing. These are some examples of web development platforms that are very commonly used and very easy to use. I encourage you to look at them if you haven't already. Regardless of whether or not you are building a website from scratch or updating an existing one, your hours of operation should be clearly identified on the homepage, as well as your policies regarding pickup and deliveries, and safety precautions for in-store traffic. This is a good example of a local wine merchant who is advising his clientele that the store is not open to the public, but is only open for pickup. Your business should have its own social media profiles, at least Facebook. Do not use your personal profile to post about your own business. Establish a different account. These are easy to set up, and their look and feel should be consistent with your website. Your Facebook profile should be active in the local Facebook groups, like the example we have seen before about Chester. Similarly, and very interestingly, a relatively new platform called Nextdoor has become very, very relevant in these days when communities at the level of neighborhood feel the need to exchange timely and relevant information. Nextdoor is an even smaller subset than what the Facebook pages of towns do. Nextdoor can be set up for literally a neighborhood within a town, and people use it very effectively. This is an example of Nextbook. This exercise, this gym essentially, X-Barre, is publishing an event that they host. And to the right of that, you can see how the local followers are reacting to it. This type of social platforms really generate an extremely high level of user engagement. People really do participate and refer their friends. It's a very active and very positive thing. The information on your social media profiles must be consistent with what is published on your website, and it should be kept updated constantly. Your social media profiles must be integrated on your website. If you see on the lower right corner of the screen, the Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Pinterest and Instagram icons are present on every page, or in this case of the SCORE website, so they're very easy to find. Reopening under the current circumstances provides businesses of all kinds a great opportunity to reestablish, or perhaps set out for the first time, the values of a business or a brand for a community, for the community it serves. Good communication now creates an opportunity for long-term consumers' loyalty, since what you will do during this crisis and how you will do it will be remembered for a long time in the future. As we all feel some amplified sense of community participation, our business involved in the community becomes relevant, can become memorable, establishing a mindset about that business that will far outlast this crisis. How is your business helping the community? How are you sharing your resources and knowledge to help those in need? Perhaps you have some excess supplies that someone could use. Perhaps you can organize a fundraising event. Or perhaps you can just offer your time and expertise. What can you do? Who can you help? And who can you partner with? This concept of partnership is very important in this context because it allows local businesses to help each other and to gain visibility together. Adapting is key. Business that will go about their affairs as if nothing has happened and or as if it'll all be normal again will not make it. Some adaptation might uncover great opportunities. Some others will prove to be much less painful than originally thought. Some will not be right for a specific business, but great for others. One thing is for sure, adapting is a must, and the sooner the better. Is your business e-commerce enabled? It should be. The same web development platforms recommended before offer e-commerce packages that are fully functional and rather inexpensive. Again, on the issue of adaptation, do you offer curbside pickup or delivery? Can you host a Facebook sales event? Can you offer online education? This is particularly applicable to those of us in the service industry. Can your customers benefit from a webinar that can showcase your expertise? Ask is probably the hardest part for all of us. As communities come together to cope, most of us are inclined to help somehow. Businesses that are suffering do so normally in silence, or when they share their problems, do so in very generic ways. I didn't get my PPP loan and I don't know how to stay open. I've actually seen this post on Facebook. And this post elicits sympathy, but not action. The ask should be specific. The ask or the call to action should be specific, because I think local consumers will respond. If I said, I need to sell 50 pizzas today to make payroll, if I read that, it would make me believe that if I buy one of those pizzas, I made a difference. And so I might just do that. Or another example that I've seen is I can't cut hair, but my shop can still sell hair care products. Can you buy online on my website? These are actionable asks that a business can do to their customers, and that might generate a response. I think that this is a fantastic example. This local pizza parlor decided to offer an innovative item. Instead of selling pizzas, they offered pizza kits that clients could make at home. And everybody's looking for activities to do with the kids, so this kills two birds with one stone. They cost less than a pizza, provide activity for a family,
I'm trying. Here we go. Thank you, Stellario. Oops. Did you want to turn that screen share back on again? Stellario? So, so I don't see any questions. So we have a really special audience today. I'm gonna bring up the bring up our speakers. Can you unmute the speakers? Can you unmute yourself and bring your videos back up for me, please?
Yeah, we are.
There we go. There we go. Thank you. So, Stellario, can you bring that? There you go. The final slide. Could you bring that up a little bit? There we go. So I don't see any questions. So everybody is really, I guess, on target and has all the information they need. If you want to contact any one of our speakers directly, either for mentoring services, or if you have questions about their presentation, or if you would like a copy of their slides, our emails are on our pictures.